Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. Look, just friggin' look at how dark this juice is. It's like darker than the barrel. It's crazy. What's in here is 13th Colony Rye Whiskey. Here's the thing. It's 9 years old, and it is uncut, unfiltered, 143 proof. Friggin' HAZMAT from 9 years in Georgia heat. You think about that. So because of that, this stuff is dark. This is literally looks like a bottle of maple syrup, fresh from the sugar shack. Okay, so I'm gonna see if this is gonna blow me away today, knock me flat on my keister. We'll see how good this is. Sound good? Let's do it. All right, we got it poured. Luckily, I wasn't planning on recording 2 videos today, just the one, because I don't know that I'd be in any shape to handle more than just this. Good glory, man. But a couple of things to point out. First and foremost, big shout out to my man Jeff for sending this sample into me. I'm sure it's no easy task to willingly part with 2 ounces of a whiskey like this. The other thing is that this was actually a barrel pick that was done by some people you might know. They're from my state, the Bourbon Junkies. So we'll see if they picked a good one. Or did they just pick it because it was HAZMAT and it'd be a cool thing and it'd sell? I don't know. Let's see. Now, I historically am a pretty big fan of rye whiskeys that have a lot of age and a lot of contact with oak. Okay, so that's why I was a big fan of the Michter's 10-year rye. That's why I was a big fan of the JD Twice Barreled Special Release Rye of 2023. It's why I was a huge fan of Parker's Heritage 17th edition, the 10-year rye Parker's Heritage. There's a lot of rye whiskeys like that have that extra age, that extra contact with oak, that they just sing for me. You know what I mean? I think we all kind of have things that our palates gravitate towards. That's just one thing that never gets old to me, is old rye with a lot of sweet, toasty oak influence. And we'll see if this can, really deliver in that profile. It is fairly viscous, not super thick drips and runs coming down the side of the glass, but it is fairly thick. I don't know if you can see some of that coming down the side of the glass. There's a little thin line at the top, and then the runs coming down the sides. Awfully dark. Let's get in here and nose this thing, though, huh? And let this just be a polite reminder, guys, that sometimes there are some really great bottles out there. They're going to be barrel picks that people have done, or specific blends that people have done. I think some of the best whiskey that's going to end up on your shelf is going to be stuff like that. That's really tailor-made, but it flies under the radar because it's not some giant core release or limited release that happens that everyone's going to wait in lines at their liquor stores for drops for. This is the kind of stuff that it's really about knowing and being involved in a specific community, being in tune with what they're doing and getting involved in it. I had a great pour last night. Was a New Riff pick from a club in South Carolina called the Soda Boys that I'm proudly a member of. And they did a great job because this is the only time I've ever had, like I texted my buddy, I sat down just to do some casual gaming by myself last night, had that pour, and I texted him, I was like, holy cow, dude, I've never had so much sweet tobacco on a New Riff product before, but it was totally like brown sugar and a cigar. And then he had sent me a sample of it, so he took a picture of the bottle, and the tasting notes that the group had done was buttercream and tobacco. I was like, boom, perfect! It sort of validated my palate there. I was like, yes, that's what I'm saying! But there's just some great whiskeys you're gonna get to drink and partake and be a part of, and even be a part of maybe the selection group that goes out to distilleries and picks barrels. Get involved in the community. It's just a great thing to do. It's a great way to build relationships with other guys who love the same stuff. And you're going to get access to some pretty cool juice. All right. Nose on this. It's like you just unscrewed the cap on a bottle of vanilla extract. There's so much vanilla on this. Lots of toasted oak and brown sugar. I mean, for it being HAZMAT, I've got my nose like down in this thing. And it's not overwhelming at all. I expected just like this sucker punch straight to the nasal cavities here, but I'm not getting it. I'm getting a lot of sweet toasted oak on this. Citrusy and grassy, along with those great aged oak notes for sure, which is probably due to the rye. A little bit of like a Necco wafer thing going on too. Remember those when we were kids, or at least when I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid, they would have these little cardboard boxes at the candy store with fake cigarettes, like candy cigarettes, which I mean, never would go over today to have be like, oh, we don't want kids pretending to be smoking cigarettes. But back in the day, I was like, yeah, why not? So we had these boxes of fake cigarettes. They're just these white sticks of candy that they had that powdery confectionery sweetness to them, but also sort of that Necco wafer kind of a note to it as well. I'm kind of getting that on the nose. It reminds me of those things. All right, let's get in on this. Let's give it a shot. Cheers. There it is. There's the heat. Right up front of that palate, that hot, spicy oak. You know, real firm and assertive right up front. Riding in on its coattails into the room is that anise note that makes me think of like Pernod or a Sazerac cocktail. Yeah, it makes me think of like absinthe and Peychaud's bitters. Those sort of notes. And then the sweet brown sugar and vanillas, that's where the finish just hangs on for a real long time. So, first sip, hot spicy oak up front. Then you get that anise, absinthe, Peychaud's bitters, Sazerac, kind of a cocktail, kind of a blend of flavors going on. And then the finish is this really delicate brown sugar and vanilla oak. And it loses that punch, and then it just gives you that nice sweet. It's like, those commercials for Sour Patch Kids, right? Where it's like they do something mean and then they give you a hug. It's like first they're sour, then they're sweet kind of a vibe. That's this. Like it comes on strong, then it's like, I'm sorry, man. Let's just chill. You know what I mean? At first it punches you and then it gives you a hug. That spiciness is subsiding a little bit on follow-up sips, but it is still very assertive up front. And then lots of those vegetal and absinthe anise notes. Those aren't going away. In fact, I would say those are the things that are really the star of the show. And then the finish is where that sweet oak comes in eventually. I think this sip would be even better if it took some of those sweet notes that are in the finish and dragged them forward just a little bit so that they could complement the anise and the absinthe notes a little bit better. That black licorice note that we're getting right there in the middle of the palate. If we brought some of the sweetness over, kind of tip the scales a little bit there, I think that would be a great complementary note to have with those licorice notes and whatnot. But this is really good. Sort of a progression of flavors. And if I could be nitpicky about one thing, I would say that I want some of those sweet brown sugars and vanillas that are in the finish to be a little bit more present right in there in the palate, because I think that would give the palate a little bit more balance instead of being so, like I said, that Sour Patch Kid description I think fits. It's real assertive, and then it gives you a hug. It punches you, gives you a hug. Yeah, hazmats are rarely like a daily, something you just reach for any day and be like, oh, that'll be a nice, pleasant sip to have. It's something that you really want an experience out of, and I think this delivers in that regard. So kudos to the Bourbon Junkies, Dan and Sean. Congrats, guys. Pretty compelling sip, for sure. So there you have it. That's the 13th Colony Hazmat Rye. If you want to try stuff like this, make sure you're getting involved in whiskey communities all across the states. That'll give you direct access to some really cool bottles and barrels that you otherwise would not get to experience. And quite frankly, I think that there's a lot of value in being a member of a community and experiencing things together. Because a lot of times I'll go out there and I'll buy a cool bottle that I think is cool and I'll drink it and I'll enjoy it. But I don't get to really experience it alongside someone else unless it's a guest that's over and I let them have a pour. But a lot of the communities that I'm a member of are multi-state communities. So we're not like, hey, it's my neighbor down the street. It's like, you're my neighbor 3 states over, and we'll send samples and stuff to each other. So being able to experience these things together in community, talk about them, share notes, that's a great way to both refine your palate, but also broaden your networking and give you access to some bottles you might otherwise not get. Some of the best bottles that I've had, like even just standard core releases and limited releases, have come from people that know what I like. And so they'll give me a call because they're like, hey man, I'm at the store right now. I see this bottle. I know this is something you were after. Do you want me to pick it up for you and you can just reimburse me? I'm like, heck yeah. It's a lot easier to hunt for specific bourbons and ryes and whiskeys in general when it's a team effort. So get involved. You can get involved in our Discord community as well. We got some great people there and we do some fun stuff together like bottle shares and things of the sort. And live stream. So we'd love to see you. Feel free to hit the link in the description to that Discord group, and it's totally free to join. Otherwise, big shout out to my Patreon supporters who donate every week to help fund the bottles that I get to pick up and review here on the channel. I really appreciate your support. If you want to get involved in that and the different events that we do through the Patreon group, the base entry is literally just $1. It's that. It's $1. So we try to keep it really approachable. So thank you so much for watching. Cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age. And hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.